The future of work and leadership always starts with us. Welcome to the Dr. Ginny Show. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Dr. Ginny Show. I am so happy to be here with Amy Pierre-Russo today. She's going to tell you exactly what she does. And before we get going, Amy, welcome to the Dr. Ginny Show podcast.
Dr. Ginny, thank you so much for having me today. I'm excited to be here. I do what I call work-life harmony coaching to make sure that people feel supported, focusing on meaningful work, having high quality relationships, and also not neglecting their own well-being.
Who wants that? Sign me up. I'm kidding. You're looking at me like, what? Absolutely. Amy, before we get going, and you share with us how you are working with your clients, how you're supporting them through creating these life rhythms that support their lifestyle.
Yeah.
And moves us out of survival mode and into living a sustainable career.
Yeah.
Can you share with the audience what will they learn by listening to us?
What they'll learn is an awareness of dialing down that sense of hustle and constant go, 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 slowing down enough to filter out what you really want and being able to pursue what you really want and what really matters with a better sense of harmony.
So tell us, Amy, let's dive into your story. What was it for you that inspired you to go into this space of work?
I started out in HR doing a lot of wellness programs, benefits management, finding systems and structures to better support the employee experience. And what I found over a decade in HR was that sometimes when someone was going out, supporting their family, having changes, additions in their family, and returning to work, no matter if you are the best planner in the world, your life is different now. And so when you return to work, sometimes it's just kind of brushed under the rug. People aren't sure what to ask or what support you need. And so it's just kind of like, okay, just like get to work like business as usual. Meanwhile, you end up potentially taking a step back from doing the exciting, challenging work that you're more than capable of in order to maintain order in all the other parts of your life.
Mm.
The other thing I noticed was that people with limited community support, so people who didn't have a network to go back to and say, I spent all of this time, all of this energy getting to where I am. It's not what I thought it would be. Those people would turn back and say, what do I do now? How do I navigate what my path forward looks like? That ignited me. I wanted to get certified and I fell in love with life and leadership coaching and being able to support people more with the nuances of life so that they could really create something that works for them.
One of our goals today, and I know that I have audience members who are at all levels of the organization. We have fathers, we have mothers, we have adoptive parents. So we are really including everyone in this conversation.
Absolutely.
The idea is that what you hear today, either you can apply it to yourself or you can think of a person at work that this can relate to. And now you will be able to understand yourself better and also understand someone else better. And I know that when we are in our own little world, all we see is ourselves. However, I remember, Amy, when I came back from my maternity leave, when my son was born and I was out for 3 months, I remember coming back and having a tremendous level of support from my leader who understood, who was a father himself, and from my peers. And also understanding that the rhythms of my work changed because while I was working full time and getting my PhD part time, this was very different. I was doing all that and now I was a mother and I had responsibilities. And you said something that I would love to explore more, which is some of us And it doesn't matter whether it's you're the dad or you're the mother, but typically it falls more on the mother. We dial back our career. And that has a huge impact on so much going forward as it relates to our pay potential, our
Mm,
earning potential, promotability. All of these things are spinning through our heads. And we're trying to figure out how do we adjust to this new life? At the same time, how do I keep my career going? So I hope that we go into this as we continue our conversation, Amy.
yeah.
And let's go into what are your top priorities right now as it relates to the work that you're doing with the companies and the women in particular that you support?
I love how beautifully you wrap that up, Dr. Ginny. And one of the things I want to just, go back to quickly is that you mentioned, the work I'm doing with women and with mothers. And I think that it does provide such perspective to other people within organizations, within just, businesses, work in general, to see if your organization is supporting working moms, it lets other people know that the organization wants to solve for pain points, wants to better support employees. And so, even if you are a mother, if you are someone with no kids, it makes you be curious about, what is the support I need? If they have this program for working moms, maybe they will pursue this option, include this new support resource. And so often I talk to women who are younger and aren't in a phase of life where they have extended responsibilities and things like that. They are still painting their future and saying, as my life evolves, is this an organization I can continue with?
Yes.
So I just want to mention that because it matters for all employees, even if you're not within this specific demographic. To go back into your question, my top priorities are really to make sure that people have access to be able to explore their options. And I really do believe that that's the starting point. I think that it helps provide clarity for the individuals, but also for everyone around them. And to clarify, I don't just work with, with people within organizations. I work with founders, I work with entrepreneurs. And so I think there is so much navigating of options and exploring, what is the vision you're trying to create. And as we talk about people who are parents and people who have all of this, like no time in the day, it becomes a little challenging to carve out enough space and figure out, what is my trajectory? What am I wanting to do? And the more we're able to get clarity on that picture, we're able to pull in and share with others, like, this is an opportunity for you. This is something that might be supportive. This is a resource that I found really helpful. This is how I navigated my path to doing something similar. And so it's such an important foundational piece that I feel like sometimes we try to gloss over to focus on that clarity.
Give me an example, Amy. Give
Yeah.
me, if you had a case study, just to paint a picture for the audience of a person that you have supported or a company that you have helped, just so that we can actually see your work in action. And
Yeah.
people who are listening could say, ooh, that's me. Or a company could say, we need to think this way.
Lately, it's been a lot of requests. I do workshops. I do workshops that support organizations with people dealing with a lot on their mental load. So,
Yeah.
how are you distilling, what to prioritize? How are you able to show up and be present and fully engaged without kind of drowning in the weight of so much? And candidly, like a lot of organizations are worried about budgets and pulling back and operating with limited resources at the moment. And so I think that there's such a focus on the job market and what that looks like for people, seeking what's new. The other side of that is the people who are left. So if you have had reductions, if you are one of the people who remains in the organization figuring out, well, what now? I've been, not just doing the workshops, but hearing the questions, the beautiful tension at play with people figuring out, how do I clarify my path forward and what my goals are, who I want to be, the kinds of people I want to lead, the kinds of technology I want to learn, like today, to really be involved in the evolution that's happening while still being able to contribute and really understand, tap into the organizational's greater vision, the legacy that they're creating. So, kind of like interweaving yourself into this bigger picture without burning out. And so, like, what is the balance and the tension that you hold to be able to do that effectively?
And what are some of the tools that you would use with this group at the workshops to help them in this space that you're mentioning?
So one of the big things, and this goes back to when you talk about what I'm prioritizing in my work right now, I have a community group called the Harmonious Moms. And honestly, today we're dealing with so much isolation in our work dynamics. We're dealing with so much lack of support in some instances. And even the way that like your face lit up when you were talking about the support you received through that, when you're returning to work, you had your child, you were resourced and equipped to be able to do well. And I think that right now, that's a lot of what's missing is a lot of people, even really senior people in their professional lives, reflecting and saying, I don't have a mentor. I don't have people at the table who are sponsoring me and thinking about, my advancement and saying my name in the rooms where maybe I'm not in quite yet. I don't have peers even that like I'm really connected with. And so really thinking about the support in the community you build around you to be able to be resourced. Those are more professional examples, but also on the personal front to be resourced with what you need there.
What you're sharing with us, Amy, is so important because if I think back to my experiences and the environments where I felt like I was thriving,
Mm,
I can say that the elements that you're mentioning, having support, having someone who cared about you,
yeah.
someone who you knew was a mentor who you can go for advice, or having a sponsor who you knew was advocating for you behind closed doors, as you
Mhm,
mentioned, those environments were the ones where I felt that I could truly bring it. And
mhm,
guess what? I brought it.
yeah,
And community is something that we underplay or undervalue. One of the things I noticed during my time in the companies where I stayed for a while
mhm,
was that I felt a sense of belonging and community.
mhm,
And it was either because I had friends at work
yep,
that are still my friends, or I had the teammates that I had. We got along, we collaborated, we had each other's back,
mhm,
supportive of each other. We weren't fighting or jockeying
mhm,
for the next project.
mhm,
There was no sense of we're, dog eat dog, which
mhm,
is how so many people feel.
mhm,
So when I hear you share that this is something that you bring to the forefront, I want to everyone who's listening to us to really ask themselves, how am I contributing
mhm,
to a sense of community in
mhm,
my
mhm,
how am I supporting my team to feel that sense of community at work? And if we think that is invaluable
mhm.
because we're here to do a job, I am sharing from a personal experience that we are leaving talent and potential on the table.
And when you say that, it also makes me think about this level of like strategic planning involved. I don't think that we look at it through the same lens of it's not just going to fall into place. Like actually taking a step back and saying, this is what I need. I have tons of peers and mentor, but I don't have a sponsor. Like really taking a look at like, what are the seats on your team that you're looking to fill. And I also love that you mentioned this longevity involved of not just, getting on LinkedIn when you need something, but actually thinking about investing in these relationships long term where you can be vulnerable, where people know your story, where people understand your skill sets in order to be able to send a spotlight on you when it makes sense. And so that takes intentionality and a sense of awareness of where you are and what you need. The last thing I'll say on that is the evolution of that. Because when we're talking about people working at high levels and having limited time, I don't want to dismiss that there is truly a lack. People feel stretched thin, they feel overwhelmed. And so doing this in ways that make sense with the position in life that you're in right now. If you're a busy parent juggling multiple things, and especially where kids are concerned, there are so many parents. Maybe you're navigating divorce, maybe you're navigating mental health issues with a loved one, you're navigating caring for your parents. There are communities for all of these different things, and it can be in person or virtual. So being aware of what you need and what's most supportive.
I'm hearing many different things that are so significant. The one is that self-awareness, being able to notice what do I need
Hmm.
in this season of my career.
Yeah.
The other one is having the courage
Mm,
to look for those resources that you're mentioning
mm,
and building yourself that community that you need.
yeah.
And I would love to explore more, Amy. I know you mentioned some of them already about the challenges. What do you see people struggle with the most? And I know you already mentioned that people feel stretched thin,
Yeah.
that people may be unclear as to what to do when they come back from a leave because now they have to reintegrate into the
Hmm.
environment. I also heard you say some people are struggling with identifying and building sponsor relationships
Right.
beyond the mentor, beyond the person who gives me advice, who is in a senior leadership role who could actually help me
Mm,
advance my career. I would love to just, for the people who are listening, to feel that they're not alone. So, what are some of the challenges that you're
mm,
facing,
mm.
that you see your clients are facing, that are important for everyone listening, especially the leaders who are listening, to understand? Wait, my people are struggling with this. This is not something that I'm familiar with. So, just to bring that as an education and self awareness.
For myself and my clients, if I were to sum it down, I feel like a big part of it is feeling like we have a lack of agency. And
Mm,
I really need to be intentional about what are the questions I'm asking myself and what are the questions I'm posing to my clients to be able to focus on what you do have control over. So that's the more granular piece. And one thing I work with my clients on a lot of the time is integration. So
mhm.
my clients are doing a lot. And I think there's a lack of acknowledgement and really recognizing, okay, there genuinely is enough. And so how can we better integrate our work, our life, our time to maximize life more fully? And I also want to pinpoint that it can be small things. I'm talking about you're dropping your child off at karate practice and you have this odd amount of time that isn't enough to go home, but you're waiting and those kinds of pockets. And having a plan, having a strategy for during that time, I'm going to follow up with 3 past clients. I'm going to respond to my emails. I'm going to like do these simple things, but the difference that makes, and by the time you get home, you're good. You've wrapped up. You're able to be present and engage and have fulfilling moments and shut off the work switch to be in family time. So, those are like specific things where it doesn't have to be huge changes. And I think we just forget that we have the agency over that.
Yes. And I want to bring something up that many of us are guilty of.
Mm,
I certainly am guilty of it.
mm,
It's supposed to be we're off work and we're still reaching out to our team.
hmm
So when our team members are supposed to be with their families,
hmm Yeah.
making dinner, catching up, connecting, we as leaders, because we're always ideating, we're always coming up with new things and don't want to forget this or that,
hmm
we reach out to our team members.
hmm
I don't know if those of you listening are also guilty as charged. And when you talk about and when we address what happens once we leave our work, whether it's the physical work
Mm,
or the virtual work, there has to be room that we make for people to live their life. And as a leader, we need to be able to take a beat. And before we send that communication to our teammate of ours, that we really consider how significant is this and how can we defer this till tomorrow morning?
mm,
Because if we don't do that, there is a human need to please. Who are we kidding? We don't want to disappoint, especially the person who signs our paycheck. And if we are the top dog, we, in a way, have a little bit of entitlement, if I'm being honest, that whatever comes from my mouth or my typewriter or my typewriter, I just did it myself, my keyboard is really meaningful. And the fact is that many times it isn't. And so what can we do as leaders to check ourselves so that we are not toxic leaders?
mm.
There it goes. I said it.
Beautiful.
What can we do to avoid being toxic leaders? And that is something we can control. I want to share something very quickly, Amy. Seth Godin. I was just listening to a podcast with Mel Robb and Seth Godin. Check it out if you enjoy both. And he was talking about a situation or a problem. We cannot do anything about a situation. The economy, that's a
Mhm.
situation. The
Yeah.
reorg, that's a situation. A problem is something we can fix. It's something we can work on. We may not have the ideal solution for the problem, but we
Mm,
will come up with a solution to a problem.
mm,
So also to be able to distinguish, is this a situation
mm,
that I'm just going to have to accept and just do the best I can given the situation? Or is this a problem? Then let's get our heads together and then let's begin to brainstorm about what are some of the possible solutions we can implement. Those are
mm,
two very different things. One makes you feel like, I'm disempowered, I'm a victim of. The other
mm,
one is like, we have a problem, let's address that problem. So I wanted to bring that in because as leaders, sometimes we think that we are doing a great job. Who doesn't want to be doing a great job? I
yeah.
do. And we, because of who we are, the vision, our brains are so fast. We're constantly thinking of the next thing. We can become very toxic in our culture. And so my question to all of you is, how are you being in your culture? And how proud are you of how you're?
Mm.
I just call myself out. So I am very, very careful as I move forward to be intentional
Yeah.
with what I do after the time is over. So Amy, as we go into the remaining of our time together,
Mhm,
what leadership competencies
mm.
would you say are most needed right now in our leaders?
I'll answer your previous question about how do leaders not be toxic? Because I think that's a beautiful question. And it envelops so much of what we talked about with the clarity and with the taking agency. Because I find that the more you're working on these things yourself, the more you're identifying harmony is a priority in my own life, you're able to acknowledge for your team and for your team members how you can best honor them maintaining their boundaries as well, and showing up in ways that support them in doing that. I also think that there's a part of just like people forget. You get to where you are a certain stage professionally, and you just forget what it's like to be junior entry level. And honestly, there is a disconnection with the way I thought it was funny when you said, like, in my typewriter, but and we forget if you've been in your career for decades and you didn't have to deal with the same weight of being constantly on, being accessible, having email access, social media, people are pinging you all during the day. You didn't have to deal with boundaries in that context. Really putting yourself in people's shoes, because I think there is some level of forgetfulness that Leaders think like, oh, they'll put a boundary in place. They'll manage that. They'll manage their time. They'll find a way to manage. But when you're new and you don't know what the priority is, this leader is reaching out to me, leaders on other teams are reaching out to me. You need some clarity in navigating. So holding the boundaries for yourself as a leader and saying, 6 p.m. is the latest I'm going to email my team. And I'll add this, unless there is something urgent, unless there's a special project, there's a huge, and I think when we do it constantly, leaders don't recognize you dilute the important things. You don't stand out when you're sending the one off 8 p.m. email because there's a big launch and something has gone wrong. You dilute yourself when it's constant. Everything can't be a priority.
And that's a great point. And I want to highlight that because when you talk about harmony, and I love that word, I like work life integration. I
Yeah.
also like work life harmony. I'm not a fan of work life balance. We will talk about the myth that you see in your industry right now. When we think about work life harmony
Mhm.
and we think about what's under our control, what I want to highlight is this. There are times when work life harmony means all hands on deck. There's a big launch this week, and everybody in my family has been made aware.
Mhm.
I'm going to be working late all of this week, and I'm going to make arrangements the best that I can so that my dear ones, my loved ones, in my case, my son, is good, right? So we're not saying that this is always that, I cannot be available after 6 p.m. every single day of the week, all year round. No, this is the standard. And then there are exceptions. And we have to have some flexibility so that we are actually working with the rhythm of work.
Mhm.
As long as, and I know some industries are different than others, as long as we're not doing this every week
Yeah.
because that's going to burn us out for sure.
Yeah.
And we're going to have what I would call the leftovers of our employees coming to work. They're not going to be giving you their best
Mhm.
idea and their best effort. And they're not going to be promoting a healthy work culture if they're all burnt out. So I just wanted to make sure that we're not confusing work-life harmony with I'm just going to sit on my laurels and life is perfect. No, that's not it. It's also not a war zone every single day.
Yeah. That's really important to me because being realistic is so important and looking at things realistically. So there are going to be those moments where things shift. And so when you were asking about the kind of like core focuses, the like competencies that people need, that leaders need, you just highlighted them so beautifully when you're saying that because it is, I like to think of things as seasons. And so when I look at the different seasons over the course of the year, I'm thinking like, this is the busy season. This is when, it's going to be busy and how you're talking about, like, that's realistically what needs to happen. Have a plan at home and at work. And so I like to go through with my clients, like, what is the support to create and maintain sustainability? Because I find that sometimes people have a plan and say, oh, I'm going to, have the cleaner, I'm going to, have groceries be delivered, I'm going to delegate this to this team member and create things so beautifully during peak season or when you're, planning to be away and kind of slip out of habits that were working beautifully during other times. So that when I think about sustainability, what are you holding on to maintain the effect they
So what I'm hearing, uh, Amy, is something that I'm a visual person. I imagined as you were speaking, think of the year,
Mhm.
think of the seasons of your year,
Yeah.
the different things that happen for you, the rhythm that is
Mhm.
normal for you, and be intentional about finding the right support
Mhm.
based on the season that is about to hit you.
Yeah.
Plan ahead. That is a beautiful way to make it sustainable and to live in that harmony that you're speaking about.
Yeah.
Because it's not the amount of work. If I have a lot of work and I have great support,
Mm.
I'm good. It's what I have a lot of work and I don't have the support, I don't have the community, I don't have the understanding with the people that I'm engaging with, either at home or at work, that I'm going through all this and
Mhm.
I'm holding it all together by myself, that's when
Mhm.
it becomes crippling and
Yeah.
debilitating. So I love that whole visualization of imagine the year, imagine what you need throughout the year and get the right support. And one of the things that I believe in dearly is in support and community. That's why we bring our Executive Bound Elevate program to organizations and to
Mhm.
individuals who engage
Yeah.
with us. We've been running it since 2020. Primarily, what we provide for companies and individuals is here's the leadership development. Here are the areas that you identify you need to develop. Here are the strategies and tools to support you in developing them. And here's the community and the
Mhm.
support that you need to keep the momentum and to
Mhm.
understand that you're not alone in this journey that we
Yeah.
call life and work.
Yeah.
As leaders, I believe that it behooves us to think about those three things. What do our employees need?
Mhm.
What cycle are they in their life at this
Mhm.
moment? And how can our organization support them? Whether you are a founder building your company from the bottom up,
Yeah.
or you are an established leader in a Fortune 500 company, what do our employees need? Which I'm sure you know from being in HR, that was
Mhm.
part of the HR function is supposed to do, to think of our population and what the population needs and provide those benefits and provide those resources. Lastly, to think about the day to day. What do my employees need on a day to day to advance, to grow, to develop? And there will be different appetite levels
Mhm.
by the employees. Some are ferocious learners like me. Others are like, I'll learn one thing and I'm good. Having that menu of options for people to choose from is really important. And if we talk about development, if you're not developing yourself right now,
Mhm.
to repeat that, if you're not developing yourself right now, especially around artificial intelligence, agents, you name it, we're going to be left behind. So, Amy, as we talk about myths, and I know we could be speaking here forever, but if we talk about myths, what is one myth that you have run into about sustainability, about work-life harmony, about the work that you do that you would like to bust on our show today?
It ties back to what you had just left off because one myth is that it's not either or. And when you're talking about what comes to mind with what you just shared is to make sure that you're stretching yourself to imagine what support could look like. And it goes back to what I was talking about with so many organizations pulling back right now and needing to, be intentional about where they put their resources and dollars. It may not look like what it's looked like in the past. And so
Hmm.
really reimagining, if in the past you would bring on some sort of paid support, what could that look like? Is there a collaboration opportunity? Is there, a partnership? Does it need, are you planning for it to happen in the right season? Like really examining deeply and making sure it's not either or, but considering some options.
So valuable. And that actually answers the question I was going to ask you about. Where do you see the greatest opportunities?
A version of the same answer. The opportunities exist in being creative,
Hmm.
imploring ourselves to seek, are we looking at things just one way? Usually, and you were talking about the visionary component of founders, of leaders, and coming up with these grand ideas, but we usually have one idea of what that could look like, how it will be executed. And so empowering people around us to say, how would you do this? Is there something I'm missing? How, when we tap into your creativity and your strengths, what are you bringing to the table as far as an opportunity that I might be missing? So empowering the people around us, but also getting creative with ourselves and how we envision things being executed.
Yes. Well, we're ready for our lightning round, Amy.
Perfect.
This is where we get to know you even a little bit better. So, the first question I want to ask you is, what advice would you give your younger self today?
Advice I would give my younger self is to ask myself more frequently, what would it look like to be all in? And it
Mm.
ties into what I said before because I feel like sometimes when you come up with something or you're thinking you're going to do something, it looks one way. And so when I ask myself this question now, I think of, but what are all the options? And that also helps me eliminate things from my list. Like maybe when I'm thinking about like, this is what it looks like to be all in, I decide, you know what? I don't think I do want that like I thought I did.
That's a great answer. I have never heard that one before. What does it look like to be all in? I
Mhm.
love that. Thank you for sharing, Amy.
Yeah.
And if you had no limitations on resources, time, money, people that could help you, what would you take on?
To think about this, I would say a retreat with my community, with other working moms somewhere warm. I'm based in Boston, so based somewhere warm where we're just able to pour into ourselves, health, nutrition, wellness, movement, learning, all of those rich experiences and really be fully present and engaged with something like that.
I will wait for the invitation. I'm
Yeah.
on the list. Thank you.
Yeah. Those are the best experiences.
They really are. And I have engaged in so many of those. And every time I come back and I am a better person. I
Yeah.
can tell you that. And finally, Amy, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
The best piece of advice I've ever received is make it easy for people to work with you. And I always ask myself, is there a barrier? Is something unclear? How am I making it easy for other people to work with me and to refer me?
Yes. Thank you, Amy, for being with us today. I am going to share your contact information in our show notes so people can reach out to you,
Mm,
connect with you, follow you on LinkedIn, go to your website, all of the great things that you're up to.
mm,
And I want to give an assignment to everyone listening to us today. And that is, what was your number one takeaway from listening to us? Leave us a comment, reach out to us, and let us know. And number two, I invite you to share this episode with someone in your life, a leader, a team member, someone who you believe will benefit from the insights and the discussion that we had today. And if you are feeling compelled to connect with us directly, you know where to reach us at executivebound.com. It is a pleasure to have you here. The fact that you are taking the time to be with us tells us a lot about who you are and who you are becoming. So we will see you at the next episode of the Dr. Ginny Show. In the meantime, Amy, thank you for being with us.
thank you so
And
much.
my pleasure. And for all of us here, live with purpose, lead with joy. We will see you soon. If you enjoyed today's content, I appreciate your review so others can find us and share it with your friends. And to stay in touch, join our community to receive valuable strategies and expert advice at drginnybaro.com. See you soon.